All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a place. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Yeah.
Welcome to the He's on Fire podcast. Can you guys believe it's already episode 43 that we are on? Thank you for all the support. Share this video out. Go ahead and hit the like button, all that fun stuff, and you can catch us where all your audio podcasts are. We have a special guest next hour. Unfortunately, special trade deadline edition. We have talked so much about the different trade scenarios and everything, but then Flex has to hit us with that news the other night about Domantas Sabonis getting traded, and everybody freaks out. Well, here we are. We're going to talk about the different options. I'm going to go over my thoughts. The crew's going to give their thoughts as well, too, but we got to get right into the very first thing. Before I even bring on the U of A fan that's sitting right next to me over here, shout out to ASU last night for having such a tumultuous last 2 years. This was an incredible win, and I could absolutely see them building for something next year and in recruiting because of this one win alone. You beat a top 5 program. That opens a lot of doors for recruits' eyes. So shout out to them. They didn't give up. Marion Jackson, who has shot something like 17% from three-pointer, goes off for 24. Finally looks like the player we thought he would be. And they upset in triple overtime. So I wanted to give a shout out to ASU and Sun Devil basketball. You guys held it down. And here we are with the Phoenix Suns. Justin from Fanning the Flmes Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on, man. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic, gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me. A pleasure. Always nice to hop on different podcasts, cover Phoenix Suns, cover whatever Valley related. Again, happy to be here and appreciate the invite. Oh, and of course, Voida right there, right off the bat.
And P-Dog 006 with the bomb. Boo, U of A, hey, LOL. Hey,
I don't hate it on this one. For what it's worth, that game last night, I was pulling for ASU to pull that one out, particularly after, well, with UCLA ranked where it is compared to U of A, sure. And then after everything that happened earlier in the week with UCLA and U of A, I wasn't exactly sitting there worrying about whether or not ASU was going to win or lose that game and thinking it would be beneficial for them to lose. I was actually pulling for them.
If nothing else, it helps your guys' seating in the Pac-12
exactly
when it comes down to it. And then we got the rest of the crew tonight. We've got Amit, not feeling well, but he's joining us. What's going on, man?
Doing good. 1-0 as a coach.
1-0 as a coach of the. Are they like a first grade team or kindergarten?
It's a 5 and 6 year old team. We're trying to decide on a name. I'm trying to avoid South Bay Lakers, even though like 9 out of 10 kids are Lakers fans.
Tell them to be the Clippers and see what they say.
I know, that's what I'm trying to focus on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk in and say, somebody tell me a color and somebody tell me an animal, and that's going to be our team name.
Boom. I love it. 1-0. That's always a good feeling. JJ, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing all right. My internet connection is a little buggy. Sorry if I'm coming off that way. But no, I'm doing good. I went to the Nets game Monday. That was real fun. I was real up close. Yeah, like just Phoenix Suns basketball, man. Like it's been a good week and a lot to talk about. Freaking Flex.
We've got a lot to talk about thanks to Flex. But, also thanks to Flex for giving us a lot to talk about. Suns fan Randy in the house. He is making his own moves on his own Stay Off the Grass podcast channel over there. What's going on, man? How you been?
What's going on, man? Just feeling all right. It was a stinger against you guys, though, against ASU. It was a tough, tight one.
It was good. That was one of the better basketball games I've seen in a long time. And if you had no rooting interest, I'm sure you enjoyed that. But the very first point I want to talk about, gentlemen, and Justin, I want to get your input on this as well, too. We come into the game yesterday, blow the brakes off of the Wizards, just like everybody kind of thought they would. But this is coming after a loss where Suns Twitter kind of blew up a little bit. I mean, if you're on Suns Facebook, you know that it's always going to blow up on there. People are insane, and it is a cesspool of fandom on Facebook. So it keeps it interesting. But a lot of people thought, we were kind of falling off a little bit, which was weird. Some people were level-headed, some people weren't. But I think it was Dave King, if I'm not mistaken. He came out with a stat, and I saw it earlier in the day as well. And it said, out of the Suns' 10 losses, 6 or 7 of those losses came at the hand of teams that shot 15 plus or made 15 plus 3-pointers. So basically, you have to be on fire. I mean, no pun intended with the podcast, to be able to beat the Phoenix Suns. That bodes well for the playoffs, right, Justin?
I would certainly think so, because how many games out of a 7-game series can a team play completely out of their minds and be on fire like the Hawks were the other night, and like other teams that the Suns have played this year have been and have lost to this year have been? It's going to be, in all likelihood, less than 4 out of those 7 games. So no matter who you're facing, I like the odds that the Suns are going to have of beating anybody in the playoffs. I mean, when you have the best record in the NBA, you have it for a reason. And that's going to carry over in the playoffs as far as I'm concerned. And you catch a team that's on fire, and that happens, so be it. But the likelihood of it, like I said, I'm not losing sleep over it.
Absolutely. Randy, did you catch the Hawks game? What were your initial thoughts? Were you worried about it at all? I mean, obviously we bounced back, but give us your thoughts real quick.
Yeah, no, I watched it from end to end. I wasn't worried necessarily, just because I feel like we have a good enough cushion for the first seed, and that's kind of what I'm kind of gauging or whatever, or that's the thing I want the most. But I feel like it was definitely some things that got shown in that game. We struggle against teams that shoot the 3 really well. I mean, obviously they had, we lost against the Heat and they were on fire and stuff like that. So that's definitely something I'm concerned about in the sense of moving forward, and Monty and just strategizing and coaching, just trying to figure out how we're going to defend some of these players. But also the main thing that I was is concerned about, or that worried me the most, is just national TV book. Whenever we start getting flowers, whenever the national, because that was the most we had been on ESPN and whatever in a while. So it was it seemed like that whole day, that whole week, during the whole kind of maybe right around the 9-game mark, we were starting to get a whole lot of love nationally. And then we go out on TV against the Hawks and then we lose. And then it's just But I feel like we kind of needed that ass whooping just to kind of bring us down to earth or whatever. So it wasn't too crazy.
But the thing is, it wasn't even an ass whipping, because we were down 6 with under, was it 50 seconds? I mean, if Trey doesn't hit that 3, the game's wide open at that point. It's still a chance. I mean, they tried to give it back to us, and they hit 23s. When Kevin Huerter starts not missing, literally hits 3 in a row, I was just whatever. If we win or if we lose, whatever, the game is going to come down to 3-point shooting.
Yeah, right, well, I mean, go ahead.
Go. I was just going to say the exact same thing. As we weren't even out of that game. I mean, I was looking at the stats and going into the fourth quarter, and the Hawks at that point were shooting 55% from 3. We actually knocked that down a little bit in the fourth quarter, but even with those ridiculous stats, we had a shot to win that game. We had an opportunity. That's a game where you look at it, you see that kind of stat, you're like, okay, well, that seems like it could be a 20-point loss. Not with this team. This team remains in those games and has a fighting chance, which is why, again, when it comes to the playoffs, ball bounces whatever way the ball bounces. In a game like that, you could have a team that even playing on fire, the Suns are still able to beat. And thinking about how far this team has come to on that bounce back, just really quick. Remember last year when the sky was falling, it was in a back-to-back where the second loss was, I believe, to the Wizards. And that's when everybody was like, okay, this isn't working out. This isn't right. And then obviously we know what went on from there. Well, now we have this team going right back into that same building, coming off a loss and blowing the doors off the place. I mean, if anything, we can see exactly where this team is now, even compared to last year.
And if I'm not mistaken, Randy, didn't you say a podcast or 2 ago you'd really like to see them go and blow somebody out for once in a handful of games?
Yeah. We did that against the Wizards, so that was cool. But yeah, we had a lot of games where it was just I feel like I'm super confident if we go into the fourth quarter up 5 points at least, and it's just all right, we got it. But yeah, I feel like we just needed it just for rest purposes and stuff like that. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later on too, and how I feel about just us resting people or whatever. Because I've been seeing a lot of pushback against when I say stuff about not necessarily. I mean, I get it. CP3 is a competitor and stuff like that, and he wants to play every game. But it's when you're playing 40 minutes a night, it's kind of at 30. How is he? 36, 37? So it's just you gotta relax a little bit.
I agree. And going into next week now, this This is a big week. And JJ, I want to start with you. Tomorrow, Chicago Bulls. Unfortunately, no Lonzo Ball right now. He's still out for a while. Wish we could see him play. We got big Joel Embiid on Tuesday. So a back-to-back. But Chicago's coming off of a back-to-back. They just played today. Mm-hmm. Thursday, big game. Big game. I mean, it's not a big game for seeds. It's not a big game because it's on ESPN or anything. It's a big game because I think I probably speak for everybody here. We just, as Suns fans, we want that game. I want that game more than a Lakers game right now. What are you looking at? JJ, you've been on point with how you're predicting things. You're like Jay Stradamus on here right now. Next 3 games, what is our record going to be coming out of it?
I would say with the Chicago game, we're going to play it like every other game that we have this year. It's going to be neck to neck.
Vlogs just said Levine might not play tomorrow. He was out today, so take that into account now.
Okay, yeah. So, same thing. I think we're just going to be neck to neck the whole game and then close it out on the 4th. With the Sixers game, I think we might actually have I think we might whip their ass a little bit. Like the 76ers have been kind of like off and on and just very inconsistent. Joel Embiid, he's been having a good season, but when everybody else isn't scoring around them, what can you do? So I think we beat both of those teams. And then with the Bucks game, I think that's tough. I really hope we win that just for reassurance for us, But yeah, I say we go 3-0 in this. I think this stretch was more important than the last couple stretches that we've had. I can care less about the Atlanta game.
Justin, if we go 3-0 in this stretch, what is it? NBA TV, ESPN, TNT, I think in that order. What do you think that's going to say to the national pundits now about the Suns if we beat these 3 teams?
I mean, what else do the Suns need to say to national pundits that hasn't already been said?
Agreed.
We should be getting the respect that we get within the Valley, that we get from local media, and we should probably be getting more respect from local media than we're getting. But to your question, we win those 3 games. They have no choice but to give us that respect, right? I mean, they have to at that point. You can't have who was it? I forgot who it was before one of the games or after one of the games last week saying that the Suns aren't the favorites in the West because you have to first dethrone the Warriors. Excuse me? Just dethrone the Warriors? Okay. No. And if the Suns win these 3 games and they're still saying things like that, then I don't know what to tell you. Then the world's lost its damn mind.
They're going to.
I mean, that's how I feel too. Yeah. We're not going to get it.
So, Amit and Randy, I have a follow-up question to what Justin just said. If we do win those games and we don't get the respect, I mean, do you want the respect or do you not want the respect? I mean, we're all Phoenix fans here. We all know how we do when we're backs are up against the wall versus being the favored ones. Do you want them to talk about us or are you wanting them to still not give us any love? Oh, Levine was out, so it doesn't matter. What do you think? I mean,
look, there's always an excuse, right? Going back to your original question, can we go 3-0? Yeah, we can go 3-0. Honestly, I don't even care. What I care about is I want to see Joel Embiid against DeAndre Ayton. I think we're gonna wax the Bulls. 6. Who knows how that game goes? Bucks game, I don't really care because it's a playoff potential to be a fun game to watch. I really want to see how Ayton plays at this level against the Shaq of this era. I want to see that, because we know he didn't get the calls against Giannis, but Embiid's a different type of player. So, even if we went 0-3, I just really want to see Ayton ball out against Embiid. But then to your point, if they go 3-0, and what kind of respect do they get? I don't want. It's all we talked about this so many times. It's all narrative driven, right? It's just Stephen A has to have a certain point, or the show that used to have Rachel Nichols, I forget the name of it. They have to have a certain viewpoint on the Suns. It's just they're just going to talk about us a certain way, and that's fine. I don't care because I know that if you guys listen to CP3 on JJ Redick's podcast, these guys are listening to everything. They know what's up, and if you want to give them that fuel, go ahead. But they're already he called CP3 JJ Redick called him a sicko, and he called Booker a sicko. So if you're going to disrespect those dudes, you're going to get that kind of shit from it. So go ahead, disrespect them.
Yeah.
Randy, thoughts on that?
Yeah, like on the national narrative side, like I'm fine with kind of being the new modern day Spurs, but first and foremost, like I just have to like I'm so grateful that the Suns get to play on national TV because I remember like it wasn't too long ago, like we would literally play like 1 or 2 games a year, like on like ESPN. You know what I'm saying? And then when you watch the games, it would be like the fans in the stands would be like non-existent. So it's just like that part of it I'm happy for. But going back to like the games and what I'm expecting, I'm expecting if we can obviously we have to beat the Bucks. Like we could lose the other 2 and like it would sting, but like we absolutely have to beat beat Joel Embiid and then you know what I'm saying, or beat Giannis, I'm sorry. But the thing I'm looking for, or my goal kind of for this team now, like at the midway point, is like we have to do stuff to get DeAndre Ayton paid, or at least make me feel better about paying him in the future. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to, like I need more 20 and 16 nights like this, just so if we're gonna pay him that max, like it at least make me feel a little bit more smoother about like, all right, like we're gonna give him, you know what I'm saying? And also too, I got to give him his credit too, because just like going like if you kind of go back and watch his game from his rookie year till now, like he's literally like almost every year he's made leaps, like not like, you know what I'm saying, like little bitty like changes, like he's made leaps in like his game and what he's added to his game, you know what I'm saying, from year 1 to now. So it's just like that's something too I also got to give him the credit for it, you know what I'm saying? Like if it was defensively, it was offensively, like when he first came in the league, like he wasn't really there as a defender. Then the next year he added his defense and at least challenging shots. Then he wasn't there like kind of as like the pick and roll kind of like, you know, option, or at least being able to pass out of it and all the stuff that he can do now. And then like, you know what I'm saying? He really kind of came in with just the midi. And then now it's just like developed into so much more. So, and he's kind of added that like almost every offseason and stuff like that too. So yeah.
You're not wrong. JJ, what do you got?
I was dealing with internet issues. I'm sorry about that, but I missed a little bit of what Amit said, but I kind of get the gist of both what Randy and Amit said. I don't know what you guys think what game DA should have. If like this is definitely a redemption game against Giannis. If it's an all defensive night, Giannis can't get anything going. I'm cool with that if he doesn't score. Like. Obviously, Giannis is going to score, but if DA is able to not get in foul trouble early, can contest his shots, really not make it easy for him, that's a plus in my book, and that should be a eye opener for James Jones going forward.
That's a good point.
Interesting though that you bring that up, because if you guys remember last year, the last Laker game we played, Monty didn't show anything.
Exactly,
he didn't show anything that they were doing. So he had Dario Saric guarding Anthony Davis. I wonder, because I think, and we've talked about this, I think the mentality is now we have more bodies, big bodies that we can throw at Giannis. Do we show that in this game or do we not show it? Because I'd like to see
a great point.
No,
right?
No.
I wouldn't show it. I wouldn't show it this early.
Crazy.
And I don't think they will. I mean, almost to the point, even look at the Hawks game. There weren't a whole lot of adjustments, not a lot of drop, right? Not a lot of adjustments when Trae Young started going off. Could Monty have made some moves there? Probably, but why do that at this point in the year? You know, the Hawks are still a team to be, dealt with in the East. Who knows where they're going to end up being? And I think that'll hold true even more so when we play the Bucks. Ultimately, we're going to play the game, play it tough, but we're not going to see everything that we might be throwing at them come playoff time, and that's totally fine. I just want to see competitive games. I'm certainly going to say that the Suns are going to win all 3 of those games, because I don't know that I ever picked the Suns to lose a game. It's just not in my nature. What can I say? But the one thing I want to make sure they do in that Bucks game is come out healthy, because we know who they're playing against in that game, right? We got little Mr. Grayson Allen over there, who is
since Duke.
Well, yeah, exactly. Just a few incidents that perhaps indicate he might play with the most integrity. So as long as we come out healthy, then I'll be a happy boy.
Big facts. I didn't even think about that, Amit, but the one thing I was thinking about before you even made that comment was the fact that we have a JaVale McGee and Biz behind Ayton means that Ayton can definitely play a little bit more on the aggressive side, and we can throw a couple more bodies out at times, or we rest him sooner. We rest him at like the 4 or the 5 minute mark and let JaVale and Biz both come in and do their thing. And then you come out and you put that wisdom on us like you always do, Amit. And now I just wonder what kind of game plan we're going to have. I mean, I think we're 95% sure they're going to play drop, right? That's about what they're going to play the whole time. They're not going to switch until the fourth quarter unless they mean to. So we'll see what happens in those games. But the reason for the pod tonight, Flex from Jersey just had to go out, tweet this whole thing saying, yo, the Suns are in trade talks with Domantas Sabonis. And that was it. And everyone's like, Ayton's leaving. Oh, this is happening. I saw trade components where Cam Payne and Cam Johnson were both getting dealt. I mean, just a slew of things. So kind of going on what Randy was talking about DA getting paid. My whole thing, why I would be potentially for a move like Sabonis would be to, and this is if Ayton would get traded. I mean, you would imagine Ayton would get dealt in a trade like this. I don't know if Sabonis and Ayton can live and thrive together. I'm not sure about that, but if that happens, I trust James Jones and I trust Monty more than anybody doing a Suns podcast. No offense to anybody. But if that doesn't happen and Ayton is involved, I want to bring up one, Dario Saric and the passing little click thing that he had with Mikal Bridges. You guys remember that last year? I feel like Domantas Sabonis and Mikal would just absolutely click. I feel like Domantas Sabonis could raise his defensive prowess, if you will, by 10 to 15 to 20% just being on this team. I think that's possible. I think his moves are way better than DeAndre Ayton. Defensively, I honestly haven't watched enough of him defensively to say that he's going to be able to pick up that slack that we lose with Ayton. I don't think that's possible where Ayton has come up. I also question the continuity of making such a big move like that. I think we're all wanting a piece here and a piece there. We're not wanting to trade Cam Payne or Cam Johnson or whoever that's playing a lot of minutes. I don't think that's what we want. But if we do, Justin, trade Ayton in a package for a guy like Sabonis, what would the benefits be that we get back from it? Because I know Amit and Suns fan Randy are about to go ham about getting rid of DA. So let's talk about the positives. What do you think we would get out of that, Justin?
Amit, you're scaring me.
I
feel I'm keeping it here.
I'll say you're putting the cart before the horse here because I can't see any positives making a trade like that. I just can't. Look, I like Sabonis. I think he's a good player. I mean, he's a multi-time All-Star, right? But I don't think he makes this team better if you're taking away DeAndre Ayton. And if this team's goal is to win a championship, then I again don't see any positive that comes out of it. I just don't. I think it would be, to your point of the continuity, I think it'd be insane. Now that being said, I'll answer the question still, and I'll talk myself into it. And Sabonis, to your point with the passing, excellent passing big man. That's not to say that DeAndre Ayton can't do it, but Sabonis, I think we can say hands down
a little more awareness in the interior.
He's superior to DeAndre Ayton in that sense. There it is. That's what
he gets to the free throw lines three shots more per game.
There you go. Some more free throw shooting. He does have a more polished, I would say, offensive game than DeAndre Ayton does. Now, at the same time, we know how DeAndre Ayton operates in this offense and what the offense calls for him to do, right? And I don't think anybody's going to disagree that DeAndre Ayton has offensive capabilities. I mean, his rookie year, when he was called upon to score the ball more, he averaged 18 points. But if we and Sabonis's gigantic head is hugely problematic as well. Yes. But I question whether Sabonis's offensive skill set is really going to be that much of an improvement on the offensive side for the team as a whole if he were to come in too. Because again, is he going to be used all that differently than DeAndre Ayton is right now? And obviously, we're not seeing DeAndre Ayton called upon to be a primary or secondary option on a regular basis, at least. So, passing, maybe some more free throw attempts, a more polished offensive player. So maybe it gives some more opportunities, some more options on the offensive end. I guess I could talk myself into that. But as a whole, if that type of move would be made, again, trust James Jones, trust Monty Williams, but I'd be very interested in seeing them show that trust is correct.
And Randy and Amit, before I get to you, I don't think something like that's going to happen. John just said he thinks he's going to be in Boston by Thursday. If we are in a deal concerning Sabonis, it has to be a three team deal
that's what I was
where
gonna say.
we would get a Holiday or a Torrey Craig. That's what I think would happen. That's interesting in Boston, though. That compels me to think what a Tatum and Sabonis kind of tandem would do. I actually enjoy the thought of that. If I'm not lying, but trading away DeAndre Ayton for a massive type of piece, Amit, I want to start with you. Where would that leave us?
We're starting over. Like we'd have to find a big. I mean, like, look, dude, would you trade AD? Let's do this in the chat. Let's do here. Yes or no? Would you trade AD for Ayton? Forget about salaries.
No.
Right? Would you trade
healthy.
Rudy Gobert? Would you trade Rudy Gobert for Ayton?
No.
Okay. So why the hell are we talking about Sabonis? Like, where does he rank against those guys? Like,
Very well done. Very well put.
You're not scaring me anymore, Amit. Thank you.
Like, come on. Like, Ayton is only, what is he, 22, 23 years old?
23.
He came in, like you said, with a midi. Now he's got the float game. Now he's got the hook shot. He's starting to dunk the ball. I mean, Zion, yeah.
He came a long
actually,
way.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Would you trade Ayton for Zion?
Nah. Oh, no.
I wouldn't, because I don't trust his health.
Yeah, well, I don't trust himself either. And I don't think, like, just pick and roll wise, I don't think that's the best.
We've only seen like 18 Zion games.
Zion, and, Zion plays point guard for them under Van Gundy. He was playing point guard.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, dude, I think Ayton is a generational guy. We just don't know what he's going to be yet. He has a lot of offensive growth, and he's already shown that. I just stay with him. Like, I just max him out and just stay with that guy. Let's see what he becomes. And even if he doesn't become that, he's going to be an anchor on a championship level defense, which we were 2 wins away from already. So,
yeah,
Facts.
I mean, yeah, I feel like about DeAndre Ayton, I feel like his potential could be like his ceiling. I feel like is David Robinson, and that's kind of like where I want to see him at. And just like that's the kind of thing that just frustrated me is just like, why aren't you David Robinson yet? But yeah, like I said earlier, like every year he's added something to his game, and like you can tell he watches the game, he watches his game film. I don't know if you watched. He had a ESPN little segment where he was just watching his game film, and I was like, oh man, like he really knows his stuff and he cares about the game, and you know what I'm saying. And so like he takes that and he adds it to his game and stuff like that. So it hasn't been like kind of just hype or whatever. Whenever he does his post game stuff, and like, oh yeah, I'm trying to add this and this, and it's just like you can actually see it on the floor. But to the Sabonis stuff, how I feel about it is I feel like if we do get Sabonis, I don't know like if that's a realistic possibility because they did just give up Karis LeVert for like Ricky Rubio and like a bag of chips. So it's like I don't know like what the situation is if they're just trying to dump him off or whatever. But my biggest concern about getting Sabonis will be the chemistry. Like, is he a good locker room guy? Like, and if we do get him, like he would essentially kind of be either if he's not coming off the bench, then he would kind of be taking Jay Crowder and Cam Johnson minutes because he can play with the 4 because he was with Miles Turner in Indiana playing the 4. So I think that at his best too, I think he's a target version of Dario Saric. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's like the target. Yeah. Like he can pass well, he can rebound and stuff like that. I don't know if he needs 16 shots a game or whatever the case may be, or however many shots he averages to still be effective. But like my thing is just like, all right, like is he a good locker? Like I feel like that could kind of be one of those things where it's like the beginning to the end kind of thing, where it's like if you're not careful, you know what I'm saying? Because it could be like maybe he wants too much money, maybe he doesn't get along with certain players, or maybe now Jay Crowder's mad because his minutes are gone, or now like Cam Johnson development is now because we need to sign him too. So it's just like I don't know. I feel like it would. I don't know if that's a good problem to have. Like bring it, you know what I'm saying? Like yes, I feel like right now today, like for this or for a championship run, I think that it could potentially work, but I just feel like long term, and I feel like I'd rather be good because we've been down for 10 plus years. So it's like I want to be good for the next 10 until at least books at least 34, 35. So
let me play devil's advocate a little bit. I'm not trying to sell you on the idea. I'm just stating the facts. Number one being, how much is DeAndre Ayton going to ask for? And what is he going to make? Is he going to make that $40 to $43 million range? Is he worth that? Or is he going to be able to sign at the $35 million range? Domantas Sabonis, 20 million. That opens up a lot of cap to retain a lot of your favorite players that you currently have on the team, including Cam Johnson, and potentially adding another piece at the $10 to $15 million mark going forward. Something to think about. Second, same size as DeAndre Ayton. Both of them, 6'11", 250, Sabonis 240. Historically, Sabonis, better rebounder. Historically, Sabonis puts up more points on one more shot per game and gets to the line more. Does any of that matter? Are you guys all in on throwing DeAndre Ayton $40 to $43 million, which is a Luka Doncic deal? It's a Trae Young deal. Justin, I'd like you to go first. Tell me what your thoughts on that.
If we're sitting as a 5 seed right now, then what you rattled off makes me think. Where we're sitting right now, it doesn't change anything. And I get the point of the cap space. I mean, that's certainly a question, an issue, moving forward. But that's an issue moving forward. Let's let future James Jones worry about that.
I only disagree because he didn't sign one. He didn't sign a 4-year deal. He wanted a 5-year deal. Suns wanted a 4-year deal because it gave them additional flexibility to bring in somebody else. So clearly that's the thing for the present. So it is a salary cap thing. There is a part of it. I mean, again, I still don't think they're going to trade Ayton because of what they had, but kind of going back to Suns fan Randy's point, when they talk about the chemistry, I don't see DeAndre Ayton on a lot of the team photos in the offseason and on the sidelines and, things along that. I know he's with his family in the Bahamas and he's doing that. Fully support. I'm just saying all these guys have families and he's the one that's not there. These are just things I think about coming from a back hallway type of view and perspective. What's it really like inside there? So anybody else have any thoughts on that, or am I just going to get blown out of the water here? JJ, we haven't heard from you. What do you think?
So I'm kind of viewing this whole situation just from Suns Twitter. If you ask 95% of Suns Twitter if this is even realistic, or even if it was, would you even make this deal? I think the mass majority would say no, just because we know what we need. We need a scoring guard off the bench, or we just need a solid small 5. And that's really it. Roy said it earlier in the chat, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. And I don't think we have an issue with the bigs right now. So when DA's been playing this season, he's played great for a majority of the time. He had a great game against the Wizards. You can handpick a couple of games this year so far that he just balled out and stuff. And I just don't think the difference between Sabonis and DA is too drastic to make that trade. I don't think James Jones would just avoid cap space like that, even though we know DA can be the better player most nights. So it's
at the end of the day, it's none of our money. That's Bob Sarver's money. He went and collected. He's been collecting that check for how many years? He bought the franchise for $450 million. They're worth over $2 billion now. Mm-hmm. You have the equity. Pay the luxury tax, find a way to make it happen, get your replacement for CP3, and move on. But as far as this year is concerned, Justin, I am 100% sold that the key piece in the in the backcourt is Eric Gordon. Do you feel that way at all? Are you down with Eric Gordon to get him? Tell me your thoughts.
I am highly down with Eric Gordon, and I've gone through this evolution of trade options for the Suns, even dating back to before the season started. I mean, Thad Young's name has been floated since before game 1, right? And obviously he's still being floated even to this day, especially as we, approach the trade deadline. But as we've seen this season progress, I'm less concerned about that front court depth, and to your point, more concerned about that backcourt depth, because we've got a guy in Landry Shamet who we brought in.
Who?
Shamet. I can never get his last name right. We've got him who we know what we expected of him, and we're not getting anywhere near what we expected of him. And you look at what Eric Gordon's doing out there, and he's doing what we would expect Shamet to do, and then some. So that seems to be the biggest void, the biggest problem that the Suns have right now at this point. So I'm all on board for a trade for Eric Gordon at this point. I think that would be fantastic, and I'm hoping that's where the Suns go. And to the point of locker room, continuity and all of that. At least here, you're not making a move for a guy who's going to be coming in like a Sabonis, who is he's hugely paid, but he knows his role. At least we're seeing him fill a role in Houston that presumably he'd be more than happy to fill in Phoenix chasing a championship.
Exactly. And yes, Darth, he is. Yes, we tease Randy about it, just like we tease you about it on Twitter. Nobody's perfect. We understand you like the Doyers. The next name that I want to bring up, I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast.
He's
Eric
just
Gordon.
another Shamit. He's literally another Shamit that can play a little more defense.
He's a little bigger, a little bit more athletic, but yeah, I mean, he's not going to play make. The thing I think we all thought Shamit could do was be a little bit more of a playmaker, and we haven't seen that. You know, and that's the problem, is that we can't just make him the de facto point guard. If Elfrid Payton's out there, you know, he can't take over the game. That's the problem. And even with Eric Gordon, he can't be the point guard, but he can play make. I think the thing that I love about Eric Gordon is that, imagine, because when we go to full stagger in the playoffs, meaning either Booker or CP3 is on the court at all times for 48 minutes. We've already seen Eric Gordon with CP3. So imagine what that's going to be again, especially with more spacing, with interior play. So I just think that it just elevates his game. But yeah, sorry to jump in. I'm all out on Josh
Landry Shamit?
I don't even know. Josh Smith, Josh Howard. I'm out on
Josh Hart.
Sons and four, you know.
Josh Hart. I'm not big on Josh Hart either. I get the perspective of it. I think I'm going to bring up a couple more candidates to come in. But I've seen Darth put a lot of stuff out onto it, and Suns Jam Session. After thinking about it, I wouldn't hate, like, if he came in, I'm not going to hate the idea. I can talk myself into anything.
I'm not
just
either.
like Justin can,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's the one I want to go to. Randy, what do you think on Josh Hart?
Nah, it's a nah. It's just like I like him defensively. I think that him and Mikal Bridges have a good like Villanova connection and stuff like that. But it's just it's absolute, because I feel like it's like, to me, I feel like Josh Hart is just like a Walmart version of Elfrid Payton. If you really want to be surgical, like I feel like both of the, like, Josh Hart can do a little bit more. Like, he's a little bit like, his handle is there. I don't know. He might finish around the rim a little bit better than Elfrid Payton, but it's just like I don't know. Like, for just pure defense, like, nah. Like, I don't think we need that. We have we're pretty good on defense.
If we come out on the other end without anybody else in the backcourt, even through the buyout market or whatever, that is a guy that I would like to get, if nothing else, for defensive purposes. Justin, on this podcast, I think all of us would be more than happy, if we don't get Eric Gordon, to go back to Torrey Craig and try to bring in Justin Holiday as well too. If we could get those two guys coming in, I would send Shamit out. I have absolutely no problem with that. I'd
drive Shamit I would drive him to the airport. I mean, I'd drive him in Indiana, actually. Like, dude, let's go.
My question though is that, like, do you think that Landry Shamit could pick it up and turn it on in the playoffs, though? Like, do you think that this regular season Shamit is going to be the same in the playoffs? Like, do you think, or is it just like you don't even want to risk it at this point?
Can someone look up his playoff numbers?
I mean, because he had a good year with the Clippers in 2018 and stuff like that. I don't know how he did with Brooklyn, or if he was hurt or whatever. But
he was good. I remember him being stout last year. I mean, I'll look it up. What do you think, Justin?
I mean, unless these stats change my mind, I would say I'm not really inclined to wait and find that out. We've seen what we've seen, and if we have guys that we can go after that have already been performing this year, who knows whatever issue it might be with Shamit, right? We don't know if that's going to get cured. If we know that there are guys that are available that we can go after that have been performing, then why not make that move if it's going to be the right fit? Why wait?
I mean, I'll say this. I think if Shamit was shooting over 40% from three, we'd have a different opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
And if he would have to show that sort of consistency, the problem is he's an off-ball. He's like the JJ Redick, which Voida apparently wants to bring it back for some reason. We got the younger version of that right now, and he's not doing it. He doesn't fit we don't have that off-ball movement that that the teams play with. It's kind of a corner angle three. Like it's not. You're only going to get threes from certain positions with the way we run our offense, and Shamet just doesn't seem to fit with that right now. And I don't know if he's thinking about it too much or whatever, but
it's definitely mental. It's definitely because my thing is with him is just make the open ones, just the open threes, because he gets a lot of open threes and stuff like that, and he just can't knock them down. So I'm like, at this point, I'm like, it's mental with you. It's like you've missed so many. So it's just like
because I just feel like if he were able to come back next year, he would be shooting 42% for the year. I mean, you guys can quote me like that because the history of what he has done, it shows that this is the outlier season. But at the same time, like we're in win now mode. Like now, like this season, you have to perform this season. We can't wait for you, dude. We just can't. So, I mean, he was a 45% shooter 4 years ago, 40% that he hasn't been 40% since in the last 3 seasons. And being with Monty, it's like how he said is his stepson. He could marry your daughter or whatever he said. I just kind of feel like, is that more pressure added onto him? I don't know. The more I think I know, the more I know I don't know. But Justin Holiday, that is a great point. I'm going to try to find you in the comments real quick. Roy, only problem with Justin Holiday, he isn't vaccinated. It could create drama in the locker room. The only problem. I didn't know about that. Yeah, it makes me rethink a little bit just this season. Justin, does that change your mind on that at all?
I mean, I think it has to, right? If it's in, we say this not knowing what everybody's mindset is within that locker room, because obviously everything that's been reported and as far as we know, everybody's vaccinated, but who knows as far as the whole, maybe Kyrie's a little, the Kyrie mindset, if that's something the guys are like, well, if that's up to them, that's up to them. If that's okay with everybody in the locker room, maybe it's not an issue. We don't know that, but it does, from the outside perspective, create some pause, because I could definitely see how that would be divisive within the group, and that's the last thing that you need on a team that's chasing a championship.
Absolutely.
That makes me wonder: are his brothers vaccinated? Do you think?
Yeah,
Holiday and
Drew is.
Drew is okay.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
But yeah, he had to do the Olympics and do all that stuff. So
you're right.
Yeah. Then we played the other brother yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
all former UCLA dudes.
Yep.
Yeah. Nuts.
Next one. This is an interesting name that has popped up here and has popped up there, and I'm trying to look up what his salary is right now, and then I will let you know. That is a lot, but he's on a 1-year deal. Justin, Gary Harris.
That's
an interesting one.
Yeah, that's a name that I haven't really.
Harris.
Yeah, it popped up in the chat a little bit earlier. I didn't want to add it on the thumbnail or anything, but I've seen it quite a few times.
What's he making?
He's making 20.4 mil, big number, but we can easily match that with a Sticks and Dario and I don't know, Nader or something like that, right?
Shamet, yeah,
and only for Shamet, only for 1 year though. He's 1 year. He's a free agent next year.
Honestly, I haven't seen much of him this year, but from what I've seen of Gary Harris in the past, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to that, especially if it's a move like we're imagining a move is that doesn't necessarily take away any primary piece of our rotation, at least one that's not expendable. I certainly wouldn't object to that. He wouldn't be my first choice again, but I think he would be a viable option. I again wouldn't have an issue with it.
I would personally take Eric Gordon for what he brings versus Gary Harris. Gary Harris is shooting 38.5% from 3, 6'4", same size as Shamet, a little bit bigger of a build. Outside of that, 2 rebounds a game, 2 assists, like less than half a block, less than a steal. He doesn't add a whole lot. Only turns it over 1.1 time. Randy.
I was going to say, I will take his teammate. Not necessarily, maybe you can look up and see how much he's making. Terence Ross. I would take him. I feel like that's a perfect fit. Like that's
a name that's going around a lot.
Guy, like, all right, I know that he's going to shoot it, and he kind of plays the same way kind of Landry Shamet does, and he'll actually make the shots. And he always torches us.
He was on my radar last year. I've been wanting him for a long time. The only problem that I had with building it was he was 31 years old. He's only making 12.5 mil. He is a big target from the Lakers right now. If you guys listen to like Zach Lowe's podcast or a couple other big ones, he's been on the Lakers target for a while. Terence Ross, that's a good one. Amit, Terence Ross, Gary Harris. What do you think?
I wouldn't take a single Nuggets player. Not even
unimaginable.
Not even Jokic. They're all chumps. I'm good.
Well, I would trade Booker for Campazzo right now, dude. Right now.
No, I mean, no, I always kind of go back to like what I saw in the playoffs from a particular player and be like, okay, what's their ceiling? And like he didn't move the needle at all for them in the playoffs.
He got traded last year, remember, to Orlando in the trade deadline?
Sorry. Yeah. But even before that,
he got traded for Aaron Gordon.
Okay, so I remember, and that's why I didn't see him in the bubble, or in the playoffs. So, no, but when he was in the bubble, like he didn't move the needle at all. Like I'm off on any Nuggets player.
He D'd up Booker a couple times early in the season last year. He did, if nothing else. Justin, what do you think of Terence Ross?
I would go Terence Ross before Gary Harris too, and that's a guy. And if you think about it, I mean, he's already coming off the bench, so we know that as far as that type of role, that's not going to be any sort of problem with him. And really, it's a role that he's been filling for his entire career, so it's something that he's familiar with. So if we're looking to that team, then yeah, absolutely.
11 years in the NBA, he has shot sub 40% from three one time.
Yeah, that boy can shoot.
Plus, he's injured right now.
Is he, or is it one of those like TJ Warren where it's like I'm hurt, but I really want to be traded?
It says knee soreness, so take that as you will.
Yes. I don't want to play here anymore.
Roy's finally getting the Dwayne Bacon to the Suns thing going.
Roy's been pushing that for a while, man. He always has Dwayne Bacon.
Even last year.
Yeah, isn't he overseas now?
He's somewhere. He's not in the league.
Nah, he's not in the league anymore.
Okay.
He's definitely not in the league. Couple other targets kind of floating around. Talked about Sabonis, talked about Eric Gordon, Josh Hart, Torrey Craig, Aaron Holiday, or Justin Holiday, excuse me. But one that I would potentially like to see off of the buyout market. This is strictly buyout. I would love to see the return of Goran Dragic. They're talking about him being bought out. He doesn't have any type of role in Toronto. If we don't get Holiday, if we don't get Gary Harris, Eric Gordon, does Dragic move the needle for you, Justin?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't even have to look and see what he's done at any point in the past like 5 years, and you could I'll say bring Goran home. I mean, if we don't get any of these guys, we're still going to have that void, and there's absolutely no harm in bringing a guy like Goran, who we know is a dude who's not going to have an issue in the locker room, who we know has a skill set that is going to be useful to this team, especially when you look at the playmaking aspect of it, of course, and who we know is already familiar with the city and endeared to the city. My God, yes. Shit, even if we make those moves and he's available and we could bring him in and we have the space, like give him some money and let him come in just to be around. Hell yeah. Like, I'm all for Goran.
So Darth is saying what he's doing is Toronto is classless, and he hates that. I guess I might be a little under a rock right now. What is he doing, John? If you wouldn't mind typing that out a little bit, I'd love to know a little bit more. Amit, Goran Dragic.
I mean, look, dude, we haven't seen him play. Like, the thing is, he has to play. Like, if he doesn't play, so there's some things where the Suns can do to. So here's what I was thinking: if we don't get Torrey Craig, we don't get a small ball 5, and we got to go with Ish. Ish is on a 2-way deal, so he can't play in the playoffs. So he has to be on a guaranteed deal. So we'd have to move some pieces to restructure it so he could do it. So we'd have to make a trade for that to happen. So which meant that if we had to get Dragic, maybe it's a second-round pick or something to bring him back, and then we do it. But the thing is, we haven't seen him play, and he looked kind of washed like the last time he played. So I'm like, do I really want Dragic back? To me, it feels like if we could just get him for nothing and just stash him at the end of the bench, and then, okay, maybe he shows us something. If he doesn't, then he doesn't play, right? We see this happen all the time. Like when we got dude, the guy from Michigan, Jalen Rose. Like we took Jalen Rose so he wouldn't go to the Spurs, and then he plays for us, and then he doesn't actually play for us. He just sits on the end of the bench, and it's like, okay, well, we kept him away from the Spurs. Like, I can see that, like, keep him away from Lakers or keep him away from somebody else. But like, if we have to give up stuff to get Dragic, I don't do it. But if it's like we don't have to give anything up, then yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, didn't Dragic kind of like come for us or like throw some slander out there about us like after he left? Like, wasn't he?
He did. He
I don't
threw McDonough under the bench. Like, he went all out on Suns. Like, I have no trust in the front office and all that stuff. Granted, it's a different front office, same owner. But, like, yeah, I mean, he had a lot of bad blood with the Suns when he left.
But if I'm not mistaken, though, he's come out and said that's been all cleared up and they're all good now. And he and McDonough have even spoken. I might be wrong on that. Maybe I'm thinking from the first time he left. But I'm pretty sure that was more recent. That all of that has been cleared up, at least as far as they've said publicly, for whatever that's worth.
Lissy's right. Everyone did. Everyone did. Which kind of I want to bring up real quick. I think it's funny that ever since Eric Bledsoe said, I don't want to be here, every other team has said to him, I don't want you to be here. And he's been traded I don't know how many times, by the way. So
careful what you ask for. Careful.
Eric Bledsoe, I hope things work out for you. I do, because I thought you were a phenomenal player and I chose you over Goran Dragic. You know, like, we're playing a bachelor game right now, but I thought he was going to be the better player and I hope things turn out. But what a whirlwind for you, man. What a whirlwind. Randy, are there any other trade targets, any other guys we should talk about? I think Kenrick Williams came up as well, too. Roy just asked about Gary Trent Jr. I highly doubt that one would be possible. I would love that. Any other names that you're thinking? You're not on Twitter, so shoot. What do you know? I
got the Twitter now. I got it up and going.
Congratulations.
Off my
Drop your @ in the chat so everybody knows.
All right, got you. But
here's Lou Williams. Here's another one.
But I feel like just trade wise, I feel like if I don't know, like, I'm kind of a little, maybe I'm a little crazy or maybe I'm a little ahead of the curve, but I feel like if I was going to trade, I would trade kind of for like a younger guy that's kind of like that's already ready to play, like somebody that I've been looking at a lot, and I just like maybe it's just because I'm like we need a guard bad, so I'm just looking at guards, but. A guy that's not getting a lot of burn in the G League, a dude named Sharif Cooper. I don't know if you watch a lot of like Auburn or just high school stuff, but he's like, if you go YouTube him or look him up, he's literally like a younger Chris Paul. Like, I know how like Ty Jerome kind of reminded people of Nash. Like, Sharif Cooper is like a younger Chris Paul. If you go check him out, he's on Atlanta or he plays for their G League team.
I know him. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like if we can do something to at least make like, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be like Sharif Cooper, but it's gonna be like, I feel like he could be kind of like something where in development, like I feel like in a few years and so, like he can definitely like help us out big time.
Deep scouting. Attaboy. I'm not going that far deep, but we're very appreciative of that. Wow, that's a great one. No, and then John comes on with this types of slander and says Corey Seager. Oh Lord, but I'm glad you dropped a Ty Jerome reference on there. I mean, former Phoenix Suns great. Amit, any other trade pieces or guys that you've heard about that intrigue you?
You know, I said this before. I just on the minimum deals, I think if we can't get like a combo guard, I think Isaiah Thomas showed when he was at the Lakers that he can still ball. You know, somebody like that, like somebody that you could just get and just throw in for like 4 or 5 minutes, forget the defense. Like, we just need to get some buckets or move the offense. Like, even Joe Johnson. That's a good one. That's a perfect Joe. One, I take ISO Joe back. Somebody like that, like, you know, somebody that's trying to win a ring that they're kind of at the end of their thing. Harrison Barnes makes way too much money. I don't think unless they buy him out.
Years. Yeah, it could happen.
But yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, somebody like that. Like, I'm just looking at like the fringe buyout market, like the guy that can surprise you. You know, not like a Jamal Crawford. Like, yeah, no, I don't want Jamal. I don't want that dude. But like, you know, maybe
there's going to be a lot, and I don't think it's going to be like last year where we had LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, and there was just a handful of Drummond. There's going to be a lot, but I don't think it's going to be towards the sexier name, not necessarily good players, but the sexy name like it was last year. JJ, any other names for you as well too? Same question.
No, but I want to add one more thing to this Sabonis thing. Like if Indiana is willing to trade Ricky Rubio or acquire Ricky Rubio for Karis LeVert, like I think Indiana would be open to possibly just taking Dario and Jalen Smith and a couple picks. If they do that, I might as well do it. Because that's probably the best deal you can get for Sabonis.
What if they bought out Ricky? Would you want Ricky back?
ACL, he's out for the year.
He's out for the year.
Yeah, he's hurt. My bad. Yeah, I forget.
He's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Roy just brings out Joe Harris or Buddy. Harris is probably not going to play this year. Buddy healed on a 1-year prove-it deal at the end of this year. That's intriguing, but probably not. So, Justin, you've seen all the names come through from us, from the chat. Are there any others that you're thinking?
I mean, I think we've run through everything that you can possibly think of, right? In terms of potential targets, which means James Jones will probably end up trading for somebody that we haven't talked about because that's how James Jones rolls, right? But no, I'm going to sit here and continue to hope that Eric Gordon is the path that they go, and that ends up working out. But at the end of the day, whatever move happens, or even if a move doesn't happen, this team is fantastically situated right now, and whatever James Jones wants to do with this roster, I'm certainly going to trust. And to the point that JJ brought up about Sabonis, if we can get a trade where it's a scenario where we're trading pieces that aren't primary pieces, DA is not involved, that could be intriguing. My concern would be, and I think Caoch, you brought this up earlier, would be how they would be able to coexist, or maybe it was Randy that brought it up, because they did the whole Miles Turner and Sabonis thing, and obviously we see that didn't work out. And when Sabonis was floated early, I don't know why I looked it up. I looked it up a few weeks ago, but in terms of the space that Sabonis and Ayton operate in, their touches at the elbow and the post are both right up there in the tops in the league. So they literally operate in the same space most of the time. I just don't know how that would operate on the floor. But again, if that's an opportunity, it's hard to not take a strong look at that, because you're still talking about an all-star player. And if Jones and Monty thinks that's going to work, then I'm not going to sit here and say that it won't until I see it not work.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we need a guard, because I don't want to go into the playoffs, and I don't want to see Landry Shamet really. I don't really want to see Elfrid Payton touch the floor. And I just it keeps me up at night thinking about dang, in the playoffs, if Chris Paul goes down, or if Chris Paul can't play, it's just oh man, last year we at least had Etuan Moore. He did all right for what he did. But if we have to throw Elfrid Payton out there, oh man, it's gonna be a struggle to watch.
That's not good.
Yeah,
not good.
So we have a big week coming up. Big week, I think, more for national media and outside perspective or opinions on the Suns. Personally, because I'm still not over losing to the Bucks in the finals. Randy, you said that you watched a couple of the finals games at least once or twice a week or something like that. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
But for me, Thursday is a big game. Just personally, I want that little revenge, that little knife in the back. You know what I mean? I want to be able to get in there and just twist it a little bit, and I want it to look convincing. But when Amit said I don't want them to show too much, that hit me. So if we lose, I'm not going to be as upset as I might have been before, because that's a very good point. But I'm curious about the defense they're going to play and what they're going to run. I'm very curious about what they're going to run offensively. I would suspect, if you were right, Amit, we're not going to see any elbow action until maybe 5 to 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, if they do it at all, right?
If the game's close, we won't see any Spain pick and rolls or any of that action, any empty corner. I guarantee you there will not be any empty corner sets in this game. They're not going to show them any empty corner sets.
Wow. No empty corners. I would agree. That's exactly what we did against the Lakers. We didn't have a single corner three that game. I almost guarantee if you go back and look that Laker game before we played them in the playoffs, you would Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson wouldn't be bad, but
yeah,
I think that takes out of what Campaign can do. But then Campaign has been so streaky, but he always shows up in the playoffs, and he showed up in the bubble. Just like DeAndre Ayton. That was the other point I wanted to make about Ayton real quick, going back to that. Ayton and his consistency is an issue, which is why I might push for a Domantas Sabonis type trade. But Ayton has always showed up when we needed him. Always. Showed up, showed out in the playoffs, showed up, showed out in the bubble. When we needed him, he was always out there. So a lot of things to think about. Justin, what else do you got for Sun stuff? Any last notes, any last words, any tidbit you want to throw out there before we get our outros and get on out of here for the night?
No, man. I mean, I'll say one thing. A buddy of mine texted this to me earlier today, and he's like, is it bad that I'm kind of over the regular season at this point? I just want to fast forward to the playoffs. Is that weird? I'm like, no, bro. Yeah, you guys think it's weird? I think it's totally not weird at all.
I want to fast forward.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Same page then. No, I'm all for that. And I'm like, dude, I think the players are probably in that same boat. I saw, I was at, where was this? I was at the Suns had an event where Wilbon did like a sit down interview with Chris Paul and Book, and they kind of did this little like game of horse and stuff. They're going to air it, I think, during the All-Star break sometime. And CP was talking about how they kind of keep their motivation throughout the year, coming off a finals run and all of that, which I ever pressed all memories post game 2 from that finals run. So I don't know what happened, guys. Someday I might be able to find out. But
good man.
He talked about how they set these little goals for themselves throughout the year to kind of continue to maintain their focus and continue to play through all this, even though they could have that lull coming off of that last season. And it's things like, the winning streaks, hitting 10-game winning streaks. One of them was, getting their team to a point where their coaching staff is going to the All-Star break, which is to the All-Star game, which is what they've already accomplished. So this team will maintain that focus throughout. And I'm just stoked to get to the playoffs. So I don't know if you guys are all on the team fast forward or not, but I'm ready to be there.
Yeah. You look like you had something you wanted to say.
Oh, no, I mean, look, that Wizards game, like they could have not scored in the fourth quarter and they still would have won that game. They only scored 10 points, but they still could have won that game without even scoring a single point in the fourth quarter. I mean, that tells you how locked in this team is. I enjoy watching this team play. Like I just, it thrills me every day. Like, yeah, I want to see them in the playoffs, but I just love it when we just kick the shit out of these teams. And it's just fun to see, like, whether it's Boss Man hit like 9 threes in a game, or Mikal just go for 23 and 5 steals, or CP3 just have a crazy, just nutmeg some dude. Like, it's just fun to watch that stuff. That's why, I mean, that's, I just love it.
What do you think, Randy?
Yeah, I feel like just confidence wise, like my confidence is definitely there for this week, because it's just like, I don't know if you guys watch just like some of these other teams and stuff like that, just like we play so much better than some of these other teams out there, and it's just like we can go so many different ways and play so many different, like, however you really want it, kind of. So it's just like, and I'll be watching other, like, the Nets or like whoever, and it's just like, dang, like the Suns would never, just like, we would never be in a situation where we have nothing to go to on offense. Like we definitely have a game manager for this situation. So it's just like, I feel like confidence wise, like, yeah, like I feel like we're good, but in the sense of like fast forwarding the season, like I'm kind of a little bit on, maybe I might be on an island by myself, but I feel like if we're the new modern day Spurs, I feel like we should try to not necessarily be a carbon copy, but we should just try to adopt some of those ideations in the sense of like resting guys some nights and stuff like that, because whether if you like it or if you don't, like, it worked for them in their prime. You know what I'm saying? Like, they won 5 chips off of it, and Pop obviously knew what he was doing, one of the greatest coaches of all time. So it's just like, maybe we should, like, maybe it's not a bad idea to sit CP3 or, you know what I'm saying, just, or like schedule some losses maybe in the second half of the season. But I don't know. I feel like whenever I say that, people are like, oh no, Chris Paul's too competitive and da-da-da. So it's just like, all right, and I get it.
That's what I was just going to say. I'm like, you want to be the guy who tells CP3 he's not going to play one night? I'm sure Monty would be like, hey, have at it, bro.
Maybe they can do it like when Mikal did that one time where he just checked in the game and then like fouled him and got back out.
Forced it to happen.
Yeah.
So the Suns play tomorrow night. The 76ers and Bulls both played each other. And if you're curious of how it went, DeMar DeRozan had just a minuscule 45 points, 9 boards, 7 assists, while Joel Embiid had 40 and 10. 76ers did win tonight. Bulls are going to be on a back-to-back tomorrow. So it's hard to – I hate back-to-backs. I don't even think they should count in real records because you're never going to see that in the playoffs. Here we are. They're coming off of a back-to-back. It's another challenge. We got the Sixers coming up. I mean, there's a lot of good sports on right now. I don't know if anybody's watching the Winter Olympics right now. I've been watching some speed skating. Some of the moguls was just on right now. My wife, curling. I think, is watching.
Curling,
I've been watching some curling.
That's my jam.
I'm all about. If you stay on after the outro, Jay, I have a fun story about curling I can share, but not on the air.
I love it.
And we got that going on. The U.S. men's team just picked up a really good win up in freezing cold Minnesota, and with only 3 matches left for world qualifiers. And at the end of March, I believe, is what it is, where the last heat is, the last leg. That's going to be very important. Obviously, Super Bowl's coming up. March Madness is right around the corner. This is just prime sports watching time. And you know what we didn't even do on this podcast? We didn't even give props to CP3 and Book, you guys. We didn't even say it one time. So props to CP3, props to Booker. I'm hoping Mikal Bridges or Ayton, it's probably going to be Mikal, takes over that Draymond Green spot. I wouldn't surprise me if it's DeJounte Murray.
If Mikal gets it, that's wild.
We should have 3 guys on that. So there's a lot of fun sports stuff going on. I enjoy the grind, just like John does, of watching this team day in and day out, because every day it's a brand new challenge. It's a brand new game. It's a brand new circumstance. Is it back-to-back? Are you traveling? Did you get snowed in or something? It's a grind every single day. I appreciate it. At the same time, when you are winning this much, I kind of wonder, kind of like Bane in Batman 3, where like victory was your like worst enemy or whatever he said when he finally beat Batman. I wonder if that's possible with this team, winning too much and having it, affect you in the playoffs, or maybe you go with your back into the playoffs. I don't know. Those are the things I think about as a coach. But I really appreciate you coming on, Justin. Tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter and find your work and all that fun stuff.
For sure. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm on Twitter at SoSaysJay, and our pod is at Fan the Flames NBA. My podcast partner, Paul, is at Dervish of Whirl, and Dan is no longer on Twitter because, whole different story. But someday we'll force him to come back on, and when he does, then I'll throw it out there next time I'm with you guys.
Sounds
and of
like
course, you can find our pod on the Bright Side of the Sun podcast network, brightsideofthesun.com. Dave King would probably kill me if I didn't mention that.
There you go. Boom. Got everything in there. And everybody in the chat, thank you so much for coming in. I love having such a lively chat and the interaction. We saw Matthew Lissy and John Voida in here from Suns Jam Session. Check them out as well, too. Everybody, please like this video, share it out, subscribe it, check it out on all your audio podcast front. Really appreciate everybody coming by. But, man, no matter what, it's good.
Go, one thing.
The outro's going. Go.
All right, here we go. Black History Month. If you guys haven't read the story about Henry Box Brown, you guys got to check it out. I read it. My 6-year-old the story today. It's a children's book, but Henry Box Brown. This guy was a slave in Virginia. He mailed himself to Philadelphia in a box. 27 hours. It's an incredible story. The book is muted because it's a children's book, but when you get the whole story, it's amazing. Black History Month. Check it out. Henry Box Brown.
Thank you for adding that. One of the other podcasts that I work on is doing Black History Month and doing a lot of things. You're going to see our co-owner, Jay Ness of ASAP Sports, go on there and talk Black History Month and specifically about Brian Flores and the coaching situation and sports and all that bullshit that's going on. So thank you, Jay Ness, for going and doing your work. Oh, and thank you for interrupting me. ASAP Sports is going to be the official sponsor of the Arena Football League in 2023. Hoping this podcast gets to cover the Arizona Cardinals Rattlers, exclusively. So more things coming with ASAP Sports. So everybody stay tuned. But again, it's always good to be a Suns fan right now. A lot of hype going on around this team, even if the outside pundits don't believe on us. So check out this week's game. Be a Suns fan. Trade deadline's in 4 days.
Urbanchi sets. It's up. And it is caught. Down strong. Blitz coming. Matthews. Palmer extending the play. Crosses the field. Larry Fitzgerald. There he goes. It's over. It's insane. To the 4-yard line. Crowder looking, throws it alley. Oh! He puts it down. He puts it down. They're getting a little wobbly. But down for